John, the 2nd chapter. Glory to you, O Lord. On the 3rd day there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what concern is that to you and to me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now standing there were 6 stone water jars for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. He said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the chief steward." So they took it. When the chief steward tasted the water that had become wine and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the steward called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and then the inferior wine after the guests have become drunk. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this, the first of his signs, in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Please be seated. Grace, mercy, and peace be unto you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. How many of you in your life, if you were to take stock in your life right now, how many of you would be expecting or hoping for a miracle? How many of you would hope that something miraculous would change in your life? How many of you are expecting something in your life to change because of something that's going on in your life right now? Some of you, and maybe some of us who know someone within the congregation who is struggling with something, would hope that God would send a sign of God's providence, of God's guidance, of God's direction. I can think of a few at least right now. But if I were to take stock in my own life, it would be nice if some miracles would happen. It would be nice if I could somehow, some way, drop all the weight that I've gained in the last 30 years. I'm still waiting for that surgery or pill that can just miraculously, overnight, say, okay, you can go back to the way you were. Or, as people have told me, I need to gain some weight. I would love for there to be a transplant of weight. You have heart transplants, you have lung transplants. I wish there would be some fat transplants that we could do. That's the miracle that I would want to have right now. But for some, the miracle might be guidance and direction for a job. Guidance and direction for their children. Guidance and direction and hope in the midst of an illness. Guidance and direction and a miracle in the midst of disease. Guidance and direction and hope in the midst of the loss of a loved one, of how to go on with life. Miracles don't necessarily have to happen in supernatural ways like we have in this gospel reading. But sometimes we might say to God, wouldn't it be nice if you could just send me a sign of who you are and where you are? We'll come back to that in a little bit. But we have a story before us of a wedding. A wedding where most of us have experienced a wedding and what they are like, ceremony of some kind, of varying lengths. Some weddings take at the very minimum 20 minutes, at the very most a couple of hours, and then you get to the party. And that's what a lot of couples these days want to get to right away. They want to get to the party. Well, why not? It's a great day to celebrate. It's a great day to acknowledge the wonderful thing that God has done for you in your lives in terms of bringing someone into your life. That in and of itself for some people is a miracle. For the people in Jesus' time, it wasn't just a one-day event. Most of the time, it happened over 7 days. Now, those of you who have daughters or who have experienced a wedding, can you imagine hosting 7 days of parties based on the amount of money that it costs right now between $25,000 and $30,000 for one night of celebration? But for Jesus, it was not just those who were invited, because everybody in the town most likely was invited. It was something that the whole village took part in. And a lot of times it was bring some food, bring some wine to help out with the festivities. Not all the time, but a lot of times that's the way it happened. And can you imagine if you were at one of those weddings where you were at maybe the Country Club of Lexington, and they ran out of food before everyone had a chance to eat? Or if the open bar ran out of alcohol before you had a chance to have your first drink? That's what this wedding was dealing with. Over 7 days and over the course of all the festivities, people were having a great time. But then all of a sudden, Mary, who is not mentioned by name in John's Gospel, the mother of Jesus, comes up to him, and most likely because she is in charge, at least has some responsibilities with the arrangements, because most likely she is a relative of the people that are getting married. She says, they have no more wine. As if to say, Jesus, you go take care of it. They have no more wine. Now, in today's world, that is not a life or death situation. I think we could agree that running out of wine at a wedding is not going to be the end-all for any of us here. But for them, it was. It would be a loss of reputation. It would be a very humiliating experience for the bride and bridegroom and for the family that was hosting. Because it was all about hospitality. A wedding was a great example of how the village came together and how they partied together. Because they didn't have a whole lot to celebrate. They simply didn't have the money to do it over and over again. So when a wedding happened, they took advantage of it. And they wanted it to last as long as they could. So when the wine dries out, it is a big deal. So Mary, being the good mother that she is, expects that her son, who she knows to have great influence, and at this point, great power, says they have no more wine, expecting that he has the power to do something. He has the influence to do something. He has the ability to take care of this. But Jesus, understanding what she wants him to do, basically says, it's not my time to do something. I'm not ready to show them what I can do. I'm not going to go out in public and show what I can do. But in private, he takes care of the problem. In private, he decides that he will help his believers, he will help his disciples, he will help those on the inside of his circle come to know who he is as Son of God, and he does something about it. Now, off in the corner were 6 stone jars. And it's interesting and very important that we understand that they were stone jars and not earthen jars. Because for the rites of purification, if they were earthen jars, they would be broken after at least once or twice use. For purification purposes, they were under the laws of purification, but jars made out of stone were not. And think about what these jars, which could handle 20 to 30 gallons each, think about what that felt like to have to lift one of those things or drag one of those things or fill it up with 20 to 30 gallons of water for the purification, for the washing of the hands and washing of the feet. It was not meant to be consumed. It was not meant for drinking. But it was meant for the purification of the people that were there as guests of the wedding. And so Jesus takes those stone jars, tells the servants to fill them up, 20 to 30 gallons apiece. So we'll take the highest, that's about 180 gallons of water, if my math is correct. And take that 180 gallons, and then in private or in secret, changes it into wine. Now, some people have said, well, he only changed the water into wine that the steward received, just that little bit. But that's not what happened. 180 gallons saved the day for the wedding. It was a miracle that Jesus wanted to give, or a sign that Jesus wanted to give, as the Gospel of John says, a sign for his disciples of who he is. The Son of God, the one who has the ability to take the ordinary, the water, and change it into something extraordinary. He has the ability to take the ordinary in your life and make it into something extraordinary. He has the ability to take the ho-hum and the mundane. He has the ability to take the things that seem to be lost, seem to be failing, seem to be drying out in your life, and turn them into something to celebrate. Turns them into something that your life can use. Turns them into something that your life desperately needs. It may not be supernatural like water into wine, but direction in your life, an illness being made to be gone, cancer to be gone, anything that your life is dealing with right now that is mundane or causing you to feel hopeless about can be changed. But we get to the point where we don't expect miracles in our life. We get to the point where we don't expect that God will act in our lives, and so we go through life just going through the motions. We go through life not thinking or having faith that God has the power to change what is mundane in our life, or change what needs to be changed, or added, or taken away that will affect our lives. And so I go back to the question, what in your life needs to be changed? What in your life, hello? What in your life, hey, that's a sign that I'm supposed to be done. So, what in your life do you need a miracle? Where in your life do you need a miracle? Where in your life do you need something to change? Where in your life can God take the mundane and make it extraordinary? Think about that as you go through this week. Think about that as you affect other people's lives. Think about that as you talk with others this week. Think about that as you go through your daily devotions. Think about that as we ponder how Pilgrim can be effective and affect other people's lives. We need to expect that miracles will happen. Because if we don't, we're just allowing our lack of faith, our lack of trust, to go through and carry us on each and every day, going through the motions. Would it have been life or death for the wine to have gone out? Not necessarily. But isn't it better when something like water turned into wine makes life be celebrated, and so that the party of life can go on? God has the power to do that for you. God has the power to change your life. And as the Son of God, we need to expect that that's going to happen, because God promised that that would happen. The sign for that day was not for the whole public, but for those whom Jesus wanted to help believe. We are in that inside circle. But now that we know, we need to help others come into that circle. We need to help others know that miracles can and do happen. Jesus has the power to change your life. Look for those miracles this week, in the coming days and the coming months.